The ventilator alarm snapped off mid-beep. Then nothing. Just silence. Thick, unnatural silence. The room went dark, except for the thin glow of my phone screen on the nightstand. For half a second, I didn't move. Then the smell hit me. Warm plastic. Ozone. Something that should never linger. In a house like this. I swung my feet onto the cold floor. The boards creaked. Louder than they ever had. Too loud. Like the house itself knew something was wrong. Outside, a low hum faded away. Not a storm. Not a grid failure. Something had just been turned off. Deliberately. I stepped into the hallway. Flashlight cutting a narrow path through the dark. Every device was dead. No standby lights. No blinking indicators. Nothing. That's when I heard it. Tires crunching slowly on gravel. Not leaving. Idling. Waiting. I moved to the window. Peeled the curtain back just enough to see. A white SUV sat at the curb. Headlights off. Engine barely breathing. I knew that car. Everyone in this neighborhood did. Patricia Whitmore. HOA president. Self-appointed gatekeeper of everything. That didn't belong to her. My jaw tightened as I watched her silhouette behind the wheel. Phone glowing in her hand. She didn't even try to hide it. That was the first sign. This wasn't normal. Most people at least pretend. Then her door opened. Slow. Confident. Like she expected applause. She stepped out. Perfectly pressed blazer, even at 2 in the morning. Heels clicking on pavement. Sharp. Precise. Every step intentional. Measured. Like this was just another item on her list. She didn't knock. She didn't call. She just stopped at the edge of my driveway. And raised her voice enough to carry through the dark. Maybe now you'll comply. The words hung there. Flat. Clean. No anger. No hesitation. That calm? Worse than shouting. It meant she believed she was right. I stepped onto the porch. The night air colder than it should have been. You cut my power? My voice sounded different. Quieter. Tighter. She smiled. Just enough to show she'd been waiting for that question. I enforce the rules, she said. Like flipping a switch. And risking lives. Was the same as a parking violation. The wind shifted. Carried that faint burnt smell past us again. She didn't react. Didn't even notice. That told me everything. She had no idea what she'd actually done. I looked past her. Toward the utility box near the curb. The seal was broken. Fresh. Too clean for an accident. This wasn't a complaint. This was a decision. And she made it like she owned the place. My fingers curled against the porch railing. Would rough under my skin. Every instinct told me to argue. To push back. But something deeper held me still. Because this wasn't just about power. Not anymore. There was a system in this house. A reason everything ran the way it did. And when it stopped, it didn't just go dark. It triggered something. Somewhere. Patricia took one step closer. Heels clicking again. Softer now. You've had enough warnings, she said, almost gently. Warnings. That word sat wrong. Like I'd been playing a game. She thought she understood. And I didn't. I exhaled slowly. Watched her. Really watched her this time. The confidence. The certainty. The complete absence of doubt. She thought she had control. That was the mistake. Because behind her, past the quiet street, past the dark houses, something else had already noticed the silence. And unlike her, it didn't need permission. It didn't need warnings. And it definitely wasn't going to ignore it. I did not answer her right away. The silence between us stretched, thick and heavy, like the dark inside my house. Somewhere behind me, a backup relay clicked once, then failed. That tiny sound told me more than anything she said. This was not just a simple outage. She shifted her weight, impatient now, like she expected me to fold. You ignored 3 notices, she continued. Her voice stayed smooth, rehearsed. Landscaping violations. Unauthorized equipment. You left me no choice. Unauthorized equipment. The words landed wrong. Not just wrong. Dangerous. I glanced back through the doorway. The hallway looked deeper than usual, shadows swallowing the edges of everything. The faint smell of heated wiring lingered. That should not have been happening. Not in a system built to never fail. I stepped off the porch, gravel crunching under my boots, and walked past her without asking permission. She turned slightly, watching me, but did not stop me. That was her second mistake. Most people would have blocked the path. She still thought this was a neighborhood dispute. I reached the utility box and crouched down. The metal door hung slightly open. The lock had been cut clean. Not broken. Not forced. Authorized tools. Clean work. I ran my fingers along the edge. Still warm. Recently done. I looked over my shoulder at her. Who did this for you? I asked. She crossed her arms, chin lifting just a little. Licensed contractor, she said. Fully within HOA authority. Authority. She kept using that word like it could override anything. Like it meant something beyond her clipboard and her meetings. I stood up slowly. The street felt quieter now. Too quiet. Even the usual hum of distant traffic seemed gone. That was the third sign. Systems do not fail alone. They ripple. You should turn it back on, I said. My voice stayed calm. Flat. That made her smile fade just a fraction. She heard it too. Not fear. Not anger. Something else. You can submit a compliance request in the morning, she replied. Once the board reviews, no. I cut in, still quiet. You do not understand. For the first time, she hesitated. Just a flicker. A pause between breaths. That was all it took. Because right then, from inside the house, a low tone started. Not loud. Not urgent. Just steady. Mechanical. Wrong. I turned my head slightly, listening. The tone repeated. Every few seconds. A signal. Not for me. For something else. Patricia's eyes narrowed. What is that? She asked. I did not answer immediately. I watched her instead. Watched the confidence start to shift into uncertainty. She had expected noise. Arguments. Maybe even panic. Not this. Not silence and a system responding on its own. The tone echoed again, faint through the walls. Then another sound joined it. A distant click. Like a connection being made somewhere far away. I exhaled slowly, the night air colder now against my skin. That, I said, finally meeting her eyes, is not something you can ignore. She opened her mouth to respond, but stopped. Because somewhere down the street, a second engine started. Not hers. Not mine. Something approaching. And it was not slowing down. The engine grew louder, rolling into the street with a steady, controlled hum. Not fast. Not urgent. Just precise. Patricia turned toward the sound, her posture tightening for the first time. Headlights swept across the houses, then cut off as the vehicle stopped 2 doors down. The low tone inside my house pulsed again, perfectly in sync with something unseen. That was not coincidence. I could feel it in the air. A connection had been made. Patricia folded her arms again, but the confidence did not sit the same anymore. If this is some kind of stunt, she said, sharper now, you are making it worse for yourself. I did not respond. I was listening. The night had shifted. Every small sound carried farther. A door opened down the street. Not slammed. Not rushed. Controlled. Then footsteps. Measured. Coming closer. Patricia glanced at me, then back toward the approaching figure. Who is that? She asked. Her voice dropped just enough to betray the edge creeping in. I let a few seconds pass before answering. Someone you did not think about, I said. The tone inside the house repeated again. That steady signal did not change. It never does unless something is wrong. And something was very wrong. The figure came into view under the streetlight. Dark jacket. No rush in his stride. He walked like he already knew exactly where he was going. Patricia shifted her stance again, one heel scraping lightly against the pavement. Small sound. But it carried. She was starting to feel it now. Not fear yet. But uncertainty. You called someone, she said, more to herself than to me. I shook my head slightly. I did not have to. That made her blink. Just once. Enough. Because that was the truth. I had not touched my phone. Had not sent a message. Had not raised my voice. The system did all of that the moment the power dropped. The man stopped at the edge of my driveway, eyes moving from the open utility box to the dark house, then to Patricia. He did not speak immediately. That silence pressed harder than any question. Patricia stepped forward, trying to reclaim ground. This is private property, she said, voice firm again but thinner now. HOA enforcement matter. The man tilted his head slightly, taking that in. Then he looked at me. Not questioning. Confirming. I gave a small nod. That was enough. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device, no bigger than a phone. The screen lit his face for a second. Calm. Focused. He tapped once. The tone inside my house changed. Subtle, but different. That should not have been possible without authorization. Patricia heard it too. I saw it in her eyes. That was the moment everything started to slip for her. What is going on? She asked, louder now. No one answered right away. The man finished whatever he was doing and lowered the device. Then he looked at Patricia again, longer this time. Not annoyed. Not impressed. Just assessing. Like she had just become part of a report. A record. Something official. The night felt colder again. The kind of cold that settles under your skin. Patricia straightened, forcing her shoulders back. If there is an issue, you can take it up with the board in the morning, she said. That word again. Board. Like it still mattered. The man's expression did not change. Ma'am, he said finally, voice even. Who authorized the shutdown of this property? The question landed differently than anything before. Not casual. Not optional. Patricia opened her mouth, ready to answer, but stopped halfway. Because for the first time, she did not know which answer was safe. I watched her carefully. Watched the calculations start behind her eyes. And I knew exactly when she realized she might have crossed a line she did not even see. Patricia's mouth stayed open for half a second too long. That was all it took. The man did not repeat the question. He did not need to. Silence pressed in again, heavier now, like the street itself was waiting for her answer. She straightened, forcing a breath through her nose. I did, she said finally. As HOA president. This property is in violation. The words came out sharp, but something underneath them cracked. The man nodded once, slow, like he expected that answer. He tapped his device again. The screen reflected. Faint blue across his face. Time logged, he said quietly. Not to her. Not even to me. To the system. That word hung there. Logged. Patricia frowned. I do not know who you think you are, she said, stepping forward again, trying to rebuild that wall of authority. But you are interfering with a legal enforcement action. Her heel clicked harder this time. Less controlled. The man did not move. This property, he said calm and steady, is registered under a protected classification. Patricia blinked. No, it is not, she snapped immediately. Too fast. Too certain. That was instinct, not knowledge. I felt the shift the moment she said it. Because now she was guessing. The low tone inside my house changed again. Slightly higher. More frequent. That was not random. That was escalation. The man glanced toward the front door, then back at her. You authorized a full electrical shutdown, he continued. At 02:17 hours. Patricia's eyes flicked toward the utility box. Then back. Yes, she said, slower now. With an HOA authority. That word again. Authority. But it sounded weaker this time. Like she was trying to convince herself. The man took a single step closer. Not aggressive. Just enough to close the space. You bypassed municipal notification, he said. You bypassed utility escalation protocols. Each sentence landed like a marker. Precise. Recorded. Patricia's shoulders tightened. This is a neighborhood matter, she insisted. There is no requirement, there is. He cut in. Still calm. Still level. That interruption hit harder than any raised voice. Because it carried certainty. Not opinion. I watched her face carefully. The small changes. The way her jaw set. The way her eyes moved faster now, scanning for footing. She could feel it slipping. She just did not know where yet. The man lifted the device slightly, angling it toward her. The screen showed lines of data. Timestamps. Status codes. She could not read it from where she stood, but she knew what it meant. Documentation. Real documentation. Not HOA notices printed on letterhead. Something deeper. You triggered a response, he said. Patricia laughed, but it came out thin. A response? She repeated. From who? That question lingered in the air. The wrong question. Because she was still thinking small. Still thinking local. The man did not answer immediately. He looked past her, down the street, like he was checking something beyond her view. Then he looked back. From systems you do not control, he said. That was the first time her expression truly changed. Not anger. Not annoyance. Something sharper. Realization starting to edge in. The tone inside my house pulsed again. Louder now. Closer together. Not failing. Reacting. Patricia took a step back without meaning to. Her heel caught slightly on the edge of the pavement. She recovered quickly, but the movement had already happened. She felt it now. That something had moved beyond her reach. Turn the power back on, I said quietly. She looked at me, and for the first time, she did not answer right away. The man did not look at me. He was watching her. Waiting. Measuring. Because this was no longer about rules. Or fines. Or control. It was about what she had already set in motion. And whether she could stop it before it reached somewhere she could not undo. The tone inside the house sharpened again, faster now, like a clock skipping seconds. Patricia heard it. I saw it in the way her shoulders pulled tighter. She glanced at the front door, then back at the man, then at me. Her control was slipping in small pieces. This is unnecessary, she said, but the words came out thinner than before. Not firm. Not certain. Just noise filling a gap. The man did not react. He lowered his device slightly, but his eyes stayed on her. Restore power, he said. No explanation. No argument. Just a statement. Patricia lifted her chin. Reflex. Habit. I will follow proper procedure, she replied. The board now, he said. Still calm. Still level. But there was no space left in that word. It landed clean. Final. She froze for a fraction of a second. That hesitation was new. Before tonight, she never hesitated. Not once. The street stayed quiet. Too quiet. Even the air felt still, like everything was holding its breath. Patricia turned toward the utility box again, then stopped halfway. Something inside her was calculating. Risk. Control. Image. All the things she usually balanced without thinking. But now there was something else in the equation. Something she did not understand. "You are overstepping," she said, softer now, like she was trying to pull this back into familiar ground. "This is a residential enforcement issue." The man tilted his head slightly. "This is not residential," he said. That sentence hung there. Heavy. Simple. Final. Patricia blinked. Once. Then again. That was the first real crack. Because she did not know what to say next. I stepped down from the porch, slow and steady, stopping just short of the driveway. The gravel shifted under my weight. Small sound. But it grounded the moment. "You need to turn it back on," I said. My voice stayed even. No urgency. No panic. That made it worse. Because I was not asking. Patricia looked at me, really looked this time. Like she was trying to see something she had missed before. But it was too late for that. The tone inside the house pulsed again. Louder. Closer together. Not failing. Escalating. The man glanced at his device. A small indicator flashed across the screen. He tapped once. Then again. "Secondary alert confirmed," he said quietly. Patricia's eyes snapped to him. "Alert?" she repeated. The words sounded wrong in her mouth. Like she had picked the wrong language. The man did not answer her directly. He looked past her again, down the street. This time, I followed his gaze. In the distance, another set of headlights appeared. Slower than the first. Larger. Not a neighborhood car. Not someone curious. Something official. Patricia saw it too. Her posture shifted again. Not defensive. Not confident. Just uncertain. That was the moment she realized this was no longer contained. "What did you do?" she asked, turning back to me. The question came out sharper than she intended. I shook my head slightly. "Nothing," I said. "You did." That landed harder than anything else. Because it was true. The system had been quiet for months. Stable. Invisible. Until she cut the power. The headlights grew brighter as they approached, washing the street in white light before dimming to a controlled stop further down. Doors opened. More than one. Not rushed. Not chaotic. Just precise. The tone inside the house changed again. Not louder this time. Different. Like it had reached the next step. The man slipped his device back into his jacket and took a small step aside, clearing space in front of Patricia. That movement said everything. This was no longer his part. She followed his gaze toward the approaching figures, her breath catching just enough to notice. And for the first time that night, she looked like she was about to ask the wrong person for help. The second vehicle stopped with a soft hiss, heavier than the first, engine idling low like it did not need to announce itself. Doors opened in sequence. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just controlled. Two figures stepped out, both in dark jackets with reflective stitching that caught the streetlight for a split second, then disappeared back into shadow. Patricia took a small step backward without realizing it. Her heels scraped again, louder this time. She did not look at me. She was watching them. The man beside me said nothing. He did not need to. His role had shifted. The new arrivals walked straight toward the house, eyes scanning the utility box first, then the dark windows, then Patricia. Not curious. Not surprised. Confirming. One of them lifted a small tablet, screen glowing faint blue. He tapped once, then paused, listening. The tone inside my house responded immediately. Faster now. More precise. That connection tightened the air around us. "Power interruption confirmed," the taller one said. His voice was calm, clipped, like he had said those words 100 times before. Patricia swallowed. I saw it. A small movement in her throat that broke her composure. "This is private property," she said again, but the words did not carry the same weight. They fell short this time. The second figure crouched near the utility box, examining the cut seal, running a gloved finger along the edge. He did not rush. He did not question. he just observed. Then he looked up at Patricia. Who authorized this? He asked. Same question. Different voice. It landed heavier now. Patricia hesitated longer this time. I did, she said finally, but... Her tone shifted. Less certain. Less sharp. The taller one nodded once, then tapped his tablet again. Log, he said. That word echoed the first man's earlier statement. Logged. Recorded. Permanent. Patricia's eyes flicked between them. She was starting to understand the pattern. This was not random. This was a system responding step by step. The crouched figure stood, brushing his hand lightly against his jacket. You interrupted a monitored site, he said. No accusation? Just fact. Patricia shook her head immediately. No, this is a residential property under HOA jurisdiction, she insisted, but the sentence stumbled at the end. The taller one stepped closer, not aggressive, just enough to narrow the space. This address is registered under continuous monitoring classification, he said. Any unauthorized disruption triggers escalation. Each word landed clean. Measured. Patricia blinked again, faster now. Her control was unraveling in small, visible pieces. There must be a mistake, she said. That was new. No more certainty. No more authority. Just doubt. The tone inside my house shifted again, softer now but constant, like it had reached a stable state. Not resolved. Just held. The taller one glanced at his tablet, then back at her. There is no mistake, he said. Patricia looked at me then, finally, like she was searching for something to anchor to. I held her gaze. Calm. Still. That made it worse for her. Because I was not reacting. I was waiting. The crouched figure reached toward the utility box again, pausing just before touching it. Restore power, he said. Same instruction. Different voice. No room left for delay. Patricia's hands hovered at her sides, fingers twitching slightly, like she was trying to decide whether to act or argue. The headlights behind them dimmed slightly as the vehicle adjusted its idle. The street stayed silent. Watching. Waiting. Patricia took a breath, shallow and quick. Then another. And for the first time that night, she looked like she realized she was no longer in control of what happened next. Patricia's hand moved toward the utility box, then stopped halfway. Her fingers hovered there, stiff, unsure, like they know. Longer belonged to her. The crouched figure watched closely, not blinking, not rushing. Restore power, he repeated. Same tone. Same weight. No space left for hesitation. Patricia exhaled sharply, then crouched down, heels scraping against the pavement. That sound cut through the silence. Small. But it carried. Her hands reached for the panel, but they were slower now. Careful. Not confident. She pulled the metal door fully open. The hinge creaked. Loud in the quiet. Inside, the breaker handle sat exactly where she had left it. Down. Final. She stared at it for a second too long. Like she was expecting it to move on its own. Do it, the taller one said. Still calm. Patricia swallowed again. Then she reached in and pushed the breaker back up. There was a sharp click. Clean. Immediate. The kind of sound that usually ends a problem. But this time, it did not feel like the end. It felt like the beginning of something else. The house behind me responded instantly. Lights flickered once. Then came back. Not soft. Not gradual. Full power. The hum returned. Deep. Steady. Alive. The tone inside shifted again, slowing, stabilizing. Not gone. Just different. That meant the system was still processing. Still watching. Patricia pulled her hand back quickly, like the panel might react. She stood up too fast, brushing her hands against her blazer even though there was nothing on them. There, she said, forcing her voice steady. Power restored. But she did not sound relieved. She sounded like she was waiting for something to happen. The taller figure glanced at his tablet. A small indicator turned green. He tapped once. Restoration confirmed, he said. Another entry. Another record. Patricia looked between them, searching for a reaction. Approval. Dismissal. Something that would tell her this was over. But no one moved. No one left. The man beside me shifted slightly, stepping back into place, watching without expression. The crouched figure stood again, eyes moving from the panel to Patricia, then to me. Still assessing. Still measuring. That was the part she did not understand. Restoring power did not erase what she had already done. It just closed one step in a sequence she could not see. Patricia folded her arms again, but tighter now, shoulders raised just a little. So that is it? She asked. The question sounded small. Smaller than anything she had said before. The taller figure did not answer immediately. He looked down at his tablet, scrolling once, then stopping. His eyes narrowed slightly as he read something. That pause stretched. Longer than any silence before. Patricia felt it. I saw it in the way her foot shifted again, heel turning slightly inward. A defensive stance. Not control. There is an incident record, he said finally. Full sequence logged. Patricia shook her head, quick, dismissive, but not convincing. That is standard, she said. HOA enforcement is documented. The crouched figure glanced at her, then back to the taller one. A brief look passed between them. Silent. Understood. That exchange said more than any words. The taller one lifted his eyes back to Patricia. This is not HOA documentation, he said. Each word landed heavier than the last. Patricia froze. Not moving. Not speaking. The street felt colder again. The hum from the house filled the air behind me, steady and controlled, like nothing had happened. But something had. And it was not going away. The taller one turned the tablet slightly, angling it just enough that Patricia could see the top line. Not the details. Just the classification. Her eyes locked onto it. And for the first time that night, she stopped trying to argue. Patricia's eyes stayed locked on the tablet, frozen like she was trying to unread what she had just seen. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. That was new. She always had something to say. Always had a rule, a clause, a reason. Not this time. The taller figure lowered the tablet slowly, but not before she had seen enough. Just the classification line. Just enough to break her certainty. That is not possible, she said finally. The words came out softer than anything she had said all night. Not defiant. Not confident. Just disbelief. The hum from inside my house stayed steady now. Clean. Controlled. Like the system had stabilized and moved to the next phase. That was how it worked. It never rushed. It never panicked. It just followed sequence. The crouched figure shifted his weight slightly, eyes still on her. It is already verified, he said. Calm. Final. Patricia shook her head again, but slower this time. Like she was trying to piece something together. This is a single-family home, she said. There is nothing here that qualifies for that level of... She stopped mid-sentence. Because even she could hear how weak that sounded. The taller figure did not interrupt. He just watched her, giving her space to realize it on her own. That was worse. Because it meant they were not trying to convince her. They already knew. I stepped forward slightly, just enough for the porch light to catch my face. She looked at me again, but this time it was different. Not authority. Not annoyance. Something closer to doubt. What is this? She asked. The question came out low, almost careful. I did not answer right away. I let the silence stretch just a little longer. The kind of silence that makes people fill it with their own thoughts. The hum inside the house continued, steady and precise. The tone had stopped completely now. That meant the alert cycle had closed. Which meant everything had already been transmitted. Logged. Processed. You cut power to a registered medical monitoring site, the taller figure said, stepping in before I did. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The words landed heavy enough on their own. Patricia blinked. Once. Then again. Slower this time. Medical? She repeated. The word sounded unfamiliar in her mouth. Like it did not belong in her world of landscaping violations and compliance letters. The crouched figure nodded slightly. Continuous support equipment, he added. Dependent on uninterrupted power. Each detail added weight. Each word tightened the space around her. Patricia's posture shifted again. Not upright anymore. Not controlled. Just held together. I was not informed, she said quickly. That reflex came back. Blamed the system. Blamed the process. But even she knew it was not enough. The taller figure's expression did not change. That is not a requirement, he said. Clean. Simple. Final. Patricia looked between them, then back at me. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to find something she could use. Something she could push against. But there was nothing there. Just calm. Just stillness. That made it worse. Because she could not fight what she could not define. The street stayed silent around us. No neighbors. No noise. Just the soft idle of engines and the steady hum from the house. The world had narrowed down to this moment. Patricia exhaled slowly, but it did not steady her. What happens now? She asked. The question came out quiet. Careful. Like she already knew the answer would not help her. The taller figure glanced at his tablet again, scrolling once, then stopping. His thumb hovered over the screen for a second before tapping. A soft confirmation tone came from the device. Not loud. But final. He looked up at her. And for the first time, there was something different in his eyes. Not judgment. Not anger. Just procedure. And that was the part she could not stop. The confirmation tone from the tablet faded into the night, soft but final, like a door closing somewhere far away. Patricia did not move. She stood there, arms slightly raised, like she had forgotten what to do with them. The taller figure lowered the device and slipped it back into his jacket. Smooth. Practiced. An incident report has been filed, he said. No emotion. No hesitation. Just fact. Patricia blinked slowly, trying to process the words. Filed where? She asked. Her voice had lost its edge. It sounded smaller now. Careful. The crouched figure straightened fully, adjusting his gloves with a quiet tug. State registry and federal oversight, he said. Each word landed heavier than the last. Patricia's lips parted again, but nothing came out. For the first time that night, she had no response ready. The hum from my house filled the space behind us, steady and alive, like it had never stopped. But we all knew it had. And that gap had been recorded. This will be reviewed, the taller one continued. Full sequence. Authorization. Impact. He did not rush the words. He let them settle. Patricia's shoulders dropped slightly. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But I saw it. The moment. She understood this was no longer something she could manage. I restored the power, she said quickly. The reflex came back one last time. There was no lasting harm. The crouched figure glanced at the taller one, then back at her. That is not how this is evaluated, he said. Calm. Direct. No room for interpretation. Patricia shook her head, slower now, like she was trying to reject something already decided. This is a misunderstanding, she said. I was enforcing community standards. The word standards sounded hollow now. Empty. The taller figure looked at her for a long second. Not judging. Not arguing. Just observing. You interrupted a protected system, he said. Intent does not change classification. That sentence landed clean. Final. Patricia's eyes shifted to me again. Searching. Not for authority anymore. for something else. Maybe an explanation. Maybe a way out. I held her gaze. Calm. Still. That made it worse. Because there was nothing left to negotiate. The street stayed quiet. No neighbors stepping out. No lights turning on. Just the soft idle of engines and the steady hum behind me. The world had narrowed down to consequences. The taller figure turned slightly, signaling to the others without a word. They understood immediately. The crouched figure stepped back from the utility box. The first man moved to the side. The sequence was complete. Patricia watched them, her breath shallow now, controlled but uneven. "What happens to me?" she asked. The question came out low. Careful. Real. The taller figure paused before answering. Just long enough for the silence to press in again. "You will be contacted," he said. Simple. Direct. No detail. That was worse than any explanation. Because it left everything open. Patricia nodded once, almost automatically, like she was acknowledging something she could not stop. The vehicles down the street shifted slightly as engines adjusted. The figures began to move back, their work done, their presence already fading. I turned toward the house, the porch light warm again, the air steady. Everything looked normal. But it was not. It would not be. Behind me, Patricia stood still, alone in a space she no longer controlled. And she had just realized how far that reach actually went.